which has been doing really well over the last 2 years. So ever since the new administration has come in, international has done really, really well. Okay. Last place that's done really well is emerging markets. So what's emerging markets? That's like Taiwan, that's like Korea, that's like China, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico. So think about all of those countries. Those are considered emerging markets. So you have US, you have international, that's Canada, Western Europe, Japan, and then you have emerging markets. So that's like Korea, Taiwan, China, Colombia, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico. Just, okay, sure. So those are some of the things that I think you should be aware of as far as a rate of return. So those are the 3 areas. They've all looked really good this year. So I think you should be pretty happy about the returns that you're seeing. Let me just share with you why this is really interesting right now. And I think this is something that I want to be the first one to share with you. So 1929, 73, 99 were the only other times that this happened. So 1999, 73, and 29 were the only times this happened. So in 1929, we had the Great Depression. That was the stock market crash, really bad, like really bad. 1999 was the dot-com. And then a couple years later, I don't know if anybody remembers it, but all of these companies lost like 50%. Like that's when AOL was doing really well. Yahoo was doing really well. Just so you know, Japan, Yahoo is still a big deal. I don't know if you know that. So you had all these companies that were doing really well, like Cisco. Basically, all of their earnings got cut off and their stock price completely dropped. So I just want to share with you what this is going on. So 29, 73, 99. The 4th time this has ever happened was 2026. So all these other times, like in the mid-70s, where you had high unemployment, high inflation, really bad things are happening. This is only the 4th time that this has happened. So let me make sure you understand what's happening, because I think this is really important. So the S&P 500, those are the 500 biggest companies in the United States. So McDonald's, Starbucks, you have Caterpillar, you have United, Southwest, Delta Airlines, you have like Cisco, Google, Apple. So think about the largest companies in all the different areas, from Coca-Cola to Procter & Gamble. Just think about the largest, McDonald's, all of these sorts of companies. They're called the like S&P 500. Some people call them like the Fortune 500 type of companies. They're the 500 biggest companies. So this is only the 4th time this has happened, where the S&P 500 hit all-time highs. But 5% of those 500 companies, at least 25 of those companies, hit 12-month lows. You're gonna be like, why should I care? Why should I care? Like, why is this important? The reason why this is important, and I'll give one example, is because when you just look at the S&P 500, you think everything is fine. But when you look at all the members of the S&P 500, all 500 companies, or in this case, at least right now about 30 of those companies hit a 12-month low, that means not everybody's doing well. So let me make sure you understand. Let's say she has all the money here. Like you have all the money here. So she has like $1 billion. So when she comes into the room, if I say, what's the net worth of this room? 1 billion divided by the number of people, it looks like we're all millionaires, okay? But let's say I have a lot of credit card debt. Let's say I am really struggling. When people say, hey, this room is doing really well, what they really mean is she's doing really well, and they don't look at my number because I'm doing so poorly. Did that make sense to everybody? So when you're looking at the S&P 500, that means, yes, there are a couple companies that are doing really well, but there's about 30 companies that aren't doing well at all, and actually that number potentially is growing. Just remember, I was the first one to say that, because when you see this, all of these other events have led to really bad things happening. 29, Great Depression, 1999, you had the dot-com bust, and in 73, you had stagflation, high unemployment, high interest rates. It was a really, really bad time in the United States. So all of these scenarios don't lend itself to really positive outcomes. I do want to make sure you know this time it could be different, but I think that number should be something you might want to keep in mind. So let me just kind of move on and share with you what we're thinking that's really interesting. So I have shown you this slide every single time I come into your office. I show you this slide every single time I come into the office. This time period goes from 2004 all the way to 2025 or 2026. So you have seen this slide multiple times. Anytime it goes like this, it goes up, really bad things are happening. When it goes like this, really bad things are happening. When it goes like this, really bad things are happening. When it goes down, really good things are happening. So if I were to look at 2008, going from 07 all the way to 08, do you remember 2007? Let me refresh your memory. This area, if I were to go to Riverside, if I were to go to Ontario, Claremont, let me share with you what was going on from 04 to 07. People were buying houses and you were like, oh my gosh, how did you afford that house? They're like, I just made up my income. They just wrote and started buying houses. What you started seeing in 08 were those same people who bought those houses couldn't afford those houses, and what happened? Foreclosure started happening in this area. Do you remember that? Oh, like if you bought a home between 08 and 2011, anyone here, don't raise your hand. If you bought a home in 08 to 2011, you doubled your money, maybe tripled your money. I'm gonna say it a different way. If you're really smart or lucky and you bought a home when all the home prices were collapsing between 08 and 2011, everybody in this room at least doubled your money, if not tripled your money. Depending on where you bought, you tripled your money, minimum, you doubled your money. Okay, making eye contact. And you're like, why are you telling me this? Because when you saw all of this start to run up, people started getting foreclosures and really bad things were happening in 08. This lasted up until about 2010, just so you're aware. So the last time you could really get a great deal here is 2011. Since 2011, housing prices, you're not getting a great deal, you're just getting an N, okay? You're gonna ask a very important question. You're like, why are you focused on 08? Let me share with you what's been going on now. This is 08, this is today. This is 08, when everybody was losing their jobs and bad things were happening. This is today. Yes, look at what's happening today. All the numbers are starting to go up. Now, here's the really good news. Home mortgages are here, so the homes, you don't have to worry. They're not gonna be foreclosed like the same way it was in 08, 09, 2010. That's not gonna happen. You might have friends. I just wanna be the first one to tell you this. You might have friends. They might have said, hey, you should buy a house right now a couple of years ago, even though interest rates were high. And for those people, they bought something called a adjustable rate mortgage, ARM. Adjustable rate mortgage, ARM. Adjustable rate mortgage. So they gave them a really low interest rate. They're like, wait, how did you get such a low interest rate? It resets. If interest rates keep going up, they reset the interest rate and it goes higher. Does that make sense? So you can, as long as interest rates go down, adjustable rate mortgages go down. If they don't go down, they go up. Okay, I just want to make sure you're understanding. You're going to start seeing more adjustable rate mortgages in this area, but that's a different problem. Here's the real problem that I want to share with you. When you're looking at this, you're seeing people not be able to pay back their student loans. Student loan default rates and delinquencies are at about 12% now. It's like a big number, right? The other thing that you're starting to see is people losing their cars with repossession. So let me just kind of lay this out. So you see 08, and now you're seeing what's going on with credit card delinquencies. So people over the last couple of years, their incomes didn't go up, but what you ended up seeing is their credit cards started going up and now they can't pay for their lifestyle. I'll say it a different way. So maybe like in 2023, 2024, they're like, how are you able to go on all these vacations, buy all these things, go on all these trips? Like, how much money are you like making now? But all these people were doing these amazing things. Some people actually had the money. Other people, what we discovered, were funding everything with credit card debt. And the reason I know this is credit card debt, when we started the pandemic in 2020, was about 700 billion. Now it's at about 1.1 trillion dollars. So we're adding $50 billion in new credit card debt every 3 months. I'm just giving you numbers. That's just what the numbers are. Now, what's really interesting to us is when we look at this, you started seeing credit card default or delinquency rates go over 10% now. So now, like Visa, MasterCard, they don't. So from 2020 to 2023, all of us in this room, whether we have good or bad credit, you got all these like credit card transfer notices in the mail. Since then, that number has shrunk because they don't want the liability of somebody declaring bankruptcy and not paying any of their debt. Delinquencies of over 10%. I just want to make sure you're aware of this. This is really important. Remember the earlier slide, I was like, not all companies are doing well. We can see the consumer isn't really doing that well. Here's the takeaway. 3 things that you should be aware of that I think is really interesting. In your community here today, you're having a lot more car repossessions in the United States. So just so you know, last year in 2025, there were over 3 million car repossessions in the US. Just so you know, that number is really similar to what we saw in 2009 and 2010. Now, you're gonna say, well, if it's such a big deal, why don't I ever hear about this? Because I was like, wait, we're seeing the data? Or like, why are people not talking about car repossessions? It's a lot of embarrassment. It's a lot of embarrassment. Let me explain. Let's say I drive to work today. The car companies know 2 things about me. They know where I live and where I work. They know where I live and where I work. So if they don't get my car at home, where do they get it? When I drop it off in the parking lot, they tow it out, and I don't have a car. And it's because I can't make my payments. Now, I'm not saying they did anything wrong. Cars are more expensive post-2020, and interest rates are higher. So not only is it more expensive to get a car, but the financing of that car is more expensive. So they're not bad people, it just makes it harder. The reason I share this with you is, especially in this community, I would say paying for food and paying for your mortgage and rent are very important. The third thing you need to do is pay for transportation, because you don't have public transit like you have in New York, Chicago, or in San Francisco. If I don't have a car, I can't get to your office. There's no public transit. If I don't have a car, I don't have a social life. Like, it's very hard in California not to have a car. So the fact that they are getting their cars taken away from them is usually a really bad sign. So where are the places that we're seeing? San Joaquin Valley is really hard. Northern California, not so much, but parts of San Diego and LA are increasing. Inland Empire, like, these are areas where you're starting to see higher rates of repossession. Here's the thing that you may not know. Ever since 2020, if your credit score is lower than, I think, 680, 650 or 680, don't hold me to it. They put a tracking device on your car now. And so if you can't make payment because you're a subprime borrower for autos, they can track your car and take it away. They don't even have to look for it. There's a tracking device in your car now. Now, if your credit's higher, then they don't do that type of stuff. But like, these are things that I didn't know were happening, and we're like, oh my gosh, there's a tracking device. So if you're a subprime borrower, they already know where your car is. These are things that I think are really fascinating, and I think that kind of lends itself to why we think the economy isn't doing as well as we think it is. I do want to make sure you know, we don't think there's going to be a recession this year. We don't think there's going to be a recession this year. We don't think there's going to be a recession this year. But that doesn't mean everybody's doing well. So just kind of keep that in mind. So like, you're going to ask, like, given all of that, like why? Why are things going so well? So since 2000, since the year 2000, generally every single bull market or when the economy is doing well occurs for one of two reasons. The first reason is the consumer's doing really well. They're spending, things are going well, or real estate prices are going up. So either real estate prices are going up for residential or consumers are doing really well. Okay, like the stock market, all of these sorts of things. Those are the two reasons. Here's the funny part. This recent bull market has nothing to do with the consumer, has nothing to do with residential real estate, and you're like, how? Why are things going well? This is the most important thing that I'm going to share with you. And like when you understand this, you'll understand why we're scared. So since 1999 up until 2 years ago, every single like market I could explain. Tell me what residential real estate's doing in terms of property value. So people who had money, who had real estate, all the people in this room that bought between 08 and 2011, you should be happy. You're like, he's talking about me. Because I made a lot of money. I doubled to tripled my money. Like, good for you, right? Those are really good. I'm really happy for you. Or the other side is, as a consumer, you did really well. What does that mean? Personal income, like stock market, like all of these things were really benefiting you. So like both of those things, or one of those things, were the real catalyst for why the market was doing so well. That was like an explanation. In this market, there's one reason why things are going well. Because most consumers now aren't doing so well. Because inflation's high, it's really hard to live. Like, think about when we go out to eat now, it's way more expensive today than it was like 3 years ago or 5 years ago. So if you agree with that statement, you're like, okay, like rich people are still gonna do fine, but for everybody else, like, I don't understand, why is it so? This is the biggest reason, it's data centers. Data centers. So like in the United States, we have more data centers in the United States than the next 10 countries combined. I love sharing this with people because I think this is so crazy. Like China has like 1 billion people, okay? China has like 1 billion people. We have like less than 500 data centers in China compared to the number in the US. I'm not saying we need all those data centers. I'm not even saying China doesn't need more. I'm just saying that the next 10 countries have as many data centers as one United States. Now you're gonna say, why is this such a big deal? That's where all the spending is going. All the billions of dollars are going into spending for data centers. So if you're in the business of building data centers in construction, you're doing well. If you have memory chips, you're doing well. If you have semiconductors, you're doing well. Just think about all the things that a data center needs. If you can buy into any of those things, you're doing well over the last 18 to 24 months. I think that's the biggest takeaway that I wanted to share with you. If you know that, that's one of the ways that people have made money over the last couple of years, but this is why it's so different. All of the market is reacting to two things: corporate earnings, how well companies are doing. They don't care about us. They don't care about residential real estate, those have been flat. It's corporate earnings and data center growth. That's all. Like if you took out those two things, we'd already be in a recession. I just want to be really upfront with you. If you took out those two things, we'd already be in a recession. But right now we're not because of these things. Now, you're gonna ask like, who are the people spending all this money? You have Oracle, Microsoft, Facebook, that's Meta, Alphabet, and Amazon. I'm gonna say this, and this is really, like people, so yes, earlier this week I went to a really large company, and it was in the San Francisco Bay Area. They were very, very liberal. And I don't care if you're conservative or liberal, it makes no difference. And they're telling me how much they hated data centers. And I'm like, do you even know what a data center does? I was like, do you know what a data center does? And they're like, yeah, like it does artificial intelligence. I'm like, no, it does a lot of cloud computing. Do you know what cloud computing does? And they're like, I was like, do you use Facebook because they're older? They're like, yeah. I'm like, if you use it on your phone, guess what? Your phone doesn't process it. It goes to a data center to process and shoot back the data. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. If you do cloud, so anyone who does TikTok, anyone who does Instagram, anyone who watches like cat videos on your phone, like any of those applications on your mobile device, it goes into like a vehicle to get cell phone reception, and then it shoots into a local data center, processes that data, and then shoots it back to you. Like, just think about that really quickly. Like, are we all okay not using TikTok? Are we? I know we're an older demographic. My nieces use TikTok, but like, if you're using TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of these things, you're using data centers. If you're streaming on Netflix, you're using a data center. If you're using Amazon Prime to see videos, you're using a data center. Like, if you're using video, by and large, it gets processed in data centers. So Netflix will rent out Amazon data centers to stream their videos. So if you really dislike data centers, maybe we should stop streaming. I'm just saying, right? I mean, like, there's a lot of outrage, and she and he were telling me how much, but just to kind of share with you, like, this is how much money we're spending proportionate to GDP on data centers. This is the reason, remember what I said earlier, corporate earnings coupled with data center growth? This is the reason why the stock market has done so well. For normal people, they haven't benefited at all. For normal people, they're like, I don't understand why the economy's so well. It's because of this. So once that spending stops, you and I will find out what goes on. The last thing that I want to share with you on this, and I'll talk about other themes that I think are important, is how all of this is like getting funded. If you're looking at this, you have no idea what this is, that's good. If you have no idea what this is the problem with circular spending right now in data centers and semiconductors. If you don't understand this, I think we're all on the same page. All this is all these companies giving money to other companies to buy NVIDIA products. That's all it is. So CoreWeave was a company who did Bitcoin mining. Okay, they did Bitcoin mining. This is, just so you know, if you remember Enron, I don't know if anybody remembers Enron. In 2001, they were the largest company in America, and then they went bankrupt. The CFO committed suicide. The other two guys went to jail. I'm just, like, anyone in senior management knows exactly what Enron did. Like, when I was in the labor market, everybody wanted to be like a consultant for Enron. Okay, like, I just want to give you an idea. Like, if you're younger or you don't follow it, it's okay, but you can Google Enron, E-N-R-O-N. It was the largest company in America in 2001, and they went bankrupt. The reason I share this with you is they were basically doing false transactions, and people were like, oh my God, this is self-dealing, and it's completely illegal. So instead of like just stealing money, it was like the calculus version of stealing money. You're gonna be like, why is this important? NVIDIA, I'm not saying it's stealing. They're just really transparent. They're like, we're gonna give money to CoreWeave. CoreWeave does digital Bitcoin mining, and now they're a data center. We gave them $2 billion to buy NVIDIA chips. We're gonna work with OpenAI, give them money so that they can buy NVIDIA chips. We're gonna give Anthropic money, and they're gonna buy NVIDIA chips. You see how it's really interesting? I give money to buy my product. You're seeing a lot of that happening in the market right now. It hasn't been a problem yet, but just remember, I'm the first one to kind of mention it. This slide explains, and is so confusing, that's why there's such a big problem with this. I'll forward this to you. You can forward it, look at it. That's the biggest problem that we're seeing in the market right now with self-dealing. So let's just get into it. And I promise I have 20 more minutes. I just want to go through some things that I think are really interesting with you. So different time frames, like different companies do really well. In different time frames, different companies do really well. Different times, different companies. So In the 1980s, companies like Xerox, do you even have a photocopier here any longer? Okay, yay, we have a photocopier. When I go to a lot of tech companies, they don't even have photocopiers any longer. Like if you're under 30 years of age and you worked in tech, you've never seen a photocopier. And they're like, why do people have it? And I'm like, oh, let me explain how it works. So the reason I say like in the 80s is like the two companies that I think are really interesting are Xerox, they did photocopying, and then Eastman Kodak did photography. For people who are my age or older, you probably remember they had black and yellow. If you went to Disneyland kiosks, it was ISO 600, 700, 800. My parents, because they wanted to show me they loved me, they never told me because they're Asian. They always said, I'm gonna take pictures of you. And all my pictures have me like eating, or they just take pictures when I'm not looking. That's all the pictures in my life. Why am I sharing this with you? You're like, why? Because like in the 80s, mainframe computers were like amazing. That's when IBM was the best. And the way technology worked, you didn't have digital cameras at that point in time. And then you needed a way or mechanism for imaging that they didn't have. Both Xerox and Kodak went bankrupt about 10 years ago, and Xerox has never recovered. I think they've gone through 2 bankruptcies, just so you're aware. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. When you're looking at these different time periods, you'll see that different companies do really well. Here's the most important way to make money. Most important way to make money. If all of us know who the next biggest companies are in 5 years, we all get to make money. So the people in the 80s who thought Kodak was gonna be the biggest companies in the 90s and 2000s all lost money. People in 2000 who didn't even know what Facebook, Google, because they weren't even really there and publicly traded, those people missed out on all those big companies. In 2000, who were the biggest tech companies? Intel, Cisco. So if all of us can figure out who the next biggest companies are, we can all make money. And this is why in 2025, it shows you, and I'm sorry, like you can't see this that well, NVIDIA, Apple, this is Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Broadcom, Meta, Tesla, Taiwan Semiconductor, JP Morgan Chase. Those are like the biggest companies at the end of 2025. If all of us can figure out who the biggest companies are going to be, we can all make a lot of money when we figure out, hey, how we're gonna invest. And that leads me to this, and then I'm gonna circle back on this, but I just wanna make sure I go through this because I know this is really important for all of us. So let me just do this. Just give me a second. So international, this is Japan, Canada, and Western Europe. International, since the administration came into power, international has done really well. International, you can look at the rate of returns, have done fairly well. Harvard has done better than American funds, but you can see the rate of return on a 12-month basis, 30% versus 12%. Those are all international companies. ASML, that's in the Netherlands, that's a big position. In Japan, you're looking at Toyota, that would be another big position. If you're looking at other places in Western Europe, you're looking at Hermes being a really big one. Hermes, it's a luxury brand maker in France. They're probably on the highest level compared to like LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy. That's more like broad market luxury, but Hermes is like really high market. I would say international has been a really great place for people to invest. We believe that international over the next 2 years in this administration will continue to do well. I want to make it clear, I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat, we just think that based on the current policies of this administration, international will continue to do well. The other area that will continue to do well is emerging markets. You can see that in the last 12 months, it made about 46%. And that's Lazard, they've made about 46%. They invest in China. they invest in Korea, they invest in Taiwan, they invest in Argentina, they invest in Brazil. So the types of companies they're buying would be like Mercado Libre in Latin America. So that's one of our favorite. They're like the Amazon or eBay / PayPal of Latin America. Other companies that Lazard would be buying, I believe they own Taiwan Semiconductor, or they may have owned Taiwan Semiconductor at one point in time. Those are the types of companies you're looking at on an ongoing basis, like Samsung, SK Hynix. You're looking at, in that emerging market space, those sorts of organizations. I believe that Lazard will continue to do well over the next 2 years. So those are both places outside the United States that we believe will continue to do well. These two areas, international emerging markets, they sell into America, but they're not domiciled here. So like Taiwan Semiconductor chips will make like semiconductor chips for all of your Apple phones. Just so you're aware, they're not located here. They do a lot of business here. So we believe those will continue to do well moving forward. The other area that's done really well under this administration is small company. That's like Neuberger Berman. So like companies that you're looking at would be like Yeti would have been a good example of that, like insulated mugs and coolers. I don't know if anybody uses Yeti, Y-E-T-I, Yeti. So those are companies that have done really, really well under like a Neuberger Berman. Church & Dwight has been another company. So they do like Trojan condoms. They do Arm & Hammer baking soda. Those are some of the product lines that they're looking at with Neuberger Berman. I would say small company is an area that you might want to lean into if you're interested. I think those areas in particular have done pretty well. Let me just continue and specifically talk about JP Morgan Large Cap Growth. Those are all of the big names like Meta, that's Facebook, it has Google, it has Amazon, it has pardon me, it has NVIDIA, it has the largest companies. It hasn't done nearly as well as it has in the past, but those, if you like those really big names like Google, Meta, the really biggest names, I would say JP Morgan Large Cap would be a company you might wanna lean into and take a look at. I just wanna go through the index. The places that we like the best, like I said, international emerging market, small company, and then the other one would be the S&P 500. The S&P 500 are the 500 biggest companies in the United States. You don't have to do any research on it, and they automatically reconstitute the largest companies. I would say S&P 500 all day, every day would be the place that you might want to take a look at, in addition to the international emerging markets and small company. For the people who are closer to retirement, you do have some bond funds. I would say the bond funds that we still continue to like a lot are the PIMCO Income Fund. That fund is had a pretty great rate of return. If you want something that's really stable and you don't have to worry, I would say the PIMCO Short Term. The PIMCO Short Term. If you don't want to take risk and you're really close to retirement, PIMCO Short Term is going to be something you want to take a look at. PIMCO Short Term is the one that I believe you want to really look at. It's called PIMCO Short Term A. That one has been really conservative and you don't have to worry about losing money. PIMCO Short Term is the one that you want to look at. If you're okay being a little bit more aggressive, I say the PIMCO Income Fund is going to look better. It has a better rate of return over the last 12 months. You can see the rate of return year to date, but I keep coming back to the PIMCO Short Term if you're going to retire in less than 3 years. If you're going to retire in less than 3 years, take a look at the PIMCO Short Term. So you can see the rate of return. I think it looks really healthy, and those are areas that you might want to take a look at. I'm gonna pause and then see if anybody has any questions, and I can go into different areas, but I wanted to make sure I covered the investment portion with you, just so you can see some of the areas that we like. International emerging markets, like I said, are our favorite areas to take a look at. These two areas are our favorite, and the S&P 500 with the with the small cap are probably our favorite areas that we think look attractive right now. I'm gonna stop and then see what questions you might have. And then I can go back into market data if you want. I just wanted to make sure I covered that because I know that was really important for us. I will stop there unless I can go into more market data if you want. I can talk about SpaceX. I can talk about other things if you want. But if you don't have any questions, I can just stop it there. It's okay. You can ask questions. Just so you know, if you're looking to buy a house right now, or your children are looking to buy a house, we think interest rates are still going to be elevated. We have gotten interest rates right. That's the one thing we did get right. We didn't get the recession call right a couple years ago, but we got the interest rate call correct. We still believe that interest rates are going to be elevated. So if you have children or you're looking to move out of your house and buy another one, we believe that home interest rates are still going to be elevated and high. So unfortunately, it's just going to make it really hard for people to move.
What's the rates right now?
The rate right now, it got elevated because the yields went up. Don't hold me to it, but I want to say it's 6 3/4 right now, 6.75. Yeah, on our 30-year fix. So the problem right now, what we're seeing, like here locally, for example, in your area, people have such low interest rates that even if they want to move, it's really hard for them to move because they're giving up so much financing. So it makes it really, really hard. The best, like if you can calculate the timing, let me know. But the best way to do it is right before rates go down, you buy a home. Once the rate goes down, then you refinance to the lower rate. But it's really hard to get the timing right. Because as soon as the rates go down, everybody comes back into the market. That's gonna be the hard part. So you always wanna buy before everybody goes in, because once the interest rate goes down, then bidding wars go up and then the bid prices start to go up. Right now, you're not getting a lot of bids on homes right now. So the people aren't fighting to get homes. That's the good news. The problem is the financing is just so much harder. So, anything else that I can share before I exit out?
Well, I think a lot of our staff invest in, different kind of mutual funds.
Yeah.
Instead of individual stocks.
Yeah.
So your input is useful for the macro economy. So everybody knows that. Where things are very crazy.
Yeah.
But in terms of mutual funds, are there any particular mutual funds that people should pay attention to or to avoid?
Yeah, I'll recap. I spent about 15 minutes going through the funds, but let me just do just a really quick recap. So places that we like, just to refresh everybody's memory, we like international equity and emerging markets. Those are two, and I said this earlier, because given all the things going on in the administration, those two we think over the next 2 years will look good. Small cap, I think will look good. S&P 500. If you're scared, I would say are close to retirement, the other two places that we pointed out were the PIMCO income fund, and then the one we really like if you have less than 3 years to retirement is the PIMCO short term. PIMCO short term is a cash plus account. Those are the areas that we identified earlier that we feel really comfortable with. Just so you know, Elvis, the PIMCO income and short term, you're never gonna get a huge rate of return, but the reason why we like it is because of safety purposes. It's not for accumulation, it's more for safety.
Yeah. I think 2 years ago, we had like an SP 500.
Yeah, it's called the Schwab S&P 500. It's under the index section,
Right.
and that was one of the ones we highlighted. So we highlighted international, emerging market, small cap, and then the S&P 500. Those are the ones that we highlighted earlier.
Schwab.
S&P 500.
SP 500.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So
So those are the ones that we highlighted.
You know, for people who are a little more aggressive, I think the XP 500 would be fine, right?
That's my favorite fund.
That's your favorite?
In your menu, if you don't care about risk, that's my favorite fund. Because you don't have to worry about the constitution of the fund. They're gonna add Reddit in the next quarter. Without you doing any homework, they automatically reconstitute and kick out who the 500 should or should not look like. So the reason I really like that is because without you doing any homework, an independent third party is figuring out we should add Lululemon. That happened a couple years ago. If they continue to do poorly, they'll get kicked out, but like Reddit will be added. They added Tesla back in 2021, for example. So they automatically reconstitute every 3 months. And that's the reason I like the S&P 500.
Okay.
Well, I'll stick around, but I just say, you know, the emotion I want to convey is gratitude. Really appreciate your time today. And I will go ahead and forward all of my slide deck information to Elvis, and then he can pass out any other data for you. Okay? And I'll have all the performance information also. Like, we printed it out, but I'll have the full data, and you can look at it on your own.
Questions, answers? For our staff who are buying stock individually, I think Will has already given you some kind of a precaution, you know, because sometimes, particularly NVIDIA, I think you pointed out pretty explicitly. Some of the AI stocks are risky, and high-tech stocks are risky. So invest with all cautions. I mean, in the short term, you might see your portfolio grow pretty nicely. However, you know, when it goes down, it could be very dramatic. Yeah. So take good risk, okay? I know that some of the staff, you know, like the younger guys, you guys are in the all in the chip stock. I mean, I'm not saying that this is wrong, okay? But you have to be very, very nimble and careful.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities in the market. The problem is like how, you know, how to identify. I can just share like some of my other companies, like we do like space, beyond just like SpaceX. I think Rocket Labs is a really big one. They're local here in Long Beach. They've done a really good job. You're gonna start seeing more people with $10 to $100 million in net worth in Southern California over the next 5 to 10 years. You're gonna probably see Anduril go public. They're in Costa Mesa. You'll see a couple of the drone companies go public. You're seeing, in the first time in my life, that software engineers are not making as much as mechanical engineers. So mechanical engineers never made as much from the 90s on. Now mechanical engineers are making so much money because people need to buy things and not an app. So you're seeing people fly things into space, drone companies, all of the aviation stuff, the legacy aerospace industry in El Segundo and all those areas. You're starting to see all these like mechanical engineers come to Southern California. Like that has never happened in my life. If you wanted to do stuff, you either worked at Boeing or you went to NASA, but that wasn't a ticket to make 10 to 100 million. Now we're starting to see a lot more exits go on. I mean, I can share with you, like, this is how much I believe in it. I just cold call all the space and drone companies in Southern California because, I mean, I could talk to you about the DJI scandal for China. That's been a big one for me. I'm just trying to hit all these companies because I don't know which ones are gonna be the ones that make it, but if I can get it, that's gonna be a big tailwind for me. I'm just sharing with you what we're seeing in the market because I just have never seen it. I've never seen, generally software engineers are the people who make the most in tech, but not anymore.
Yeah, well, AI is taking over them.
Yeah, well, so that's funny because like, if you're an AI engineer, target comp right now in the Bay Area, W2 is 750,000 is your just regular comp, but your RSUs, your restricted stock units and stock options, that probably gets you right around 1 to like 15 million in compensation. Like the numbers are just insane right now, but just regular comp is 750 because they're just so hard to find right now. I mean, I could go on and on. Like, these are the companies I deal with in the Bay Area. Like, I'm very targeted with where I want to allocate my time for cold calling. And because if these people don't know me, I want to make sure if I do get the opportunity, it justifies the amount of effort to get in. So, I mean, in the Bay Area, like, I've made about 5 presentations in finalist rounds for artificial intelligence. 3 of whom, like, they decided not to work with us, and that's fine. 2, I'm still in the final stages, so hopefully I can get a commitment soon. But there's opportunities in the market. It's just trying to figure out, like, hey, remember what I said earlier? You don't want to be anchored to Eastman Kodak and Xerox. Because like that's all I knew. It's who's going to be the next big one. Like right now, a lot of investors, all they do is buy Google, they buy Apple, they buy, there's nothing wrong with that. But who are the next set of companies? That's what I always keep coming back to. Like if you can help me figure that out, we can all make some real money.
Roxy.
Rocket Lab is going down a lot.
Yeah, so somebody follows Rocket Lab. So Rocket Lab shot all the way up to like 130, 135, and then it came down to about 85, give or take right now. Just so you know, I love Rocket Labs. I own Rocket Labs myself. I bought it at $5. I love Rocket Labs. We've bought Rocket Labs for our clients. Obviously, you know, not everybody can buy it at $5 like I did. Like I just pushed it. Once I saw what was going on there, can I share with everybody what Rocket Labs does? Is that okay? So Rocket Lab, I am not telling anybody to buy Rocket Labs. I am not telling anybody to buy. It sounds like you and I are the only ones who own it. Do you have somebody who works there?
Oh, Alex did. Alex bought it.
Oh, do you know somebody who works at Rocket Labs? I mean, all those people who exited off the IPO, like when we look and they go to Schwab, they're anywhere from 10 million to 100 million in net value because of their RSUs. Let me tell you who Rocket Labs is. They compete against SpaceX right now. The other one is Blue Origin, but the problem with Blue Origin is they blew up their launch pad. For people who do not know how launch services work, you never want to blow up your launch pad. Because for most people, they don't have duplicate launch pads. So once that's blown up, it takes about 18 months for you to rebuild a launch pad so you can shoot things into space. So Blue Origin, they optimize for work-life balance. So people who work at Blue Origin are a lot happier because they have work-life balance. People who are working at SpaceX and Rocket Labs are really mad and depressed, but they actually get things done. I am not saying what's good or bad. I'm just telling you facts right now. I know people at all these companies, that's why. Just so you know, I did make a presentation at SpaceX. Didn't get the business, but you know, that's why you keep trying. So let me share with you the difference between Rocket Labs. So what Rocket Labs does is their payloads for their rockets are way smaller than SpaceX. Okay, so payload is how much stuff can you shoot up into space. So the reason why SpaceX is so amazing is their payloads are massive. So they can shoot up these large satellites or other things into space that Rocket Labs cannot do. Think of SpaceX like having a big 18-wheel tractor trailer, like a really big truck that delivers, or think of it like a big bus. They have a huge amount of capacity or payload. The reason why Rocket Labs is so interesting is think of Rocket Labs like Uber. the payload's really small. But what you can do is, with SpaceX, there's only a couple of drop points. If you want a specific drop point, Rocket Labs can take you there. It's like, if you need to get from a bar or a restaurant to your home, do you take public transit or do you take Uber? Do you see the difference? Payload in public transit is a lot larger. You don't need that payload when everybody's going to Earth. You're just like humans, right? So that's why Rocket Labs is so interesting, because they can drop any of the payload. It's a smaller payload, but it's really fascinating. The other thing that you should be aware of right now is SpaceX is a de facto governmental agency. What does that mean? The government gets really, really scared when people with a huge amount of wealth can control things. So Starlink, does anyone know Starlink? They provide internet, high-speed services. That's what SpaceX does. During the onset of the Ukraine-Russia conflict, when Elon decided not to turn on the satellites to help Ukraine, and the US was begging, we need that help to provide high-speed internet solutions for the drones, et cetera, do you see how that could be super problematic? Because they're a de facto governmental agency. So the government wants a viable competitor against SpaceX. So it's gonna be SpaceX who's gonna win short term, but who's the next vendor? Is it gonna be Blue Origin? Is it gonna be Rocket Labs? Right now, Rocket Labs is getting payload from the government because they want to have a viable second alternative. They don't want a monopoly. Does that make sense to everybody? The question, and this is the reason why people were so interested. I was like, right now, Blue Origin is not a viable competitor because they optimize for work-life balance. Whenever I hear founders say, I want work-life balance, I just throw them away. I'm like, I'm not gonna look at those companies because I don't care about if your employees are happy. I care about, are we gonna get things done? Now, long-term, that's probably not healthy. But there's a reason why Rocket Labs and SpaceX are doing so much better than Blue Origin. Oh, just for everybody, Blue Origin is backed by Jeff Bezos. And if you look at who's working at Blue Origin, it's a who's who of some of the greatest minds.
But do you think SpaceX will merge with Tesla?
That part I don't.
Better?
I personally don't think that's gonna happen, but if it does, such is life. But all I do know is SpaceX does have a viable business with Starlink. Their launch business is viable, and then depending on how you want to look at their artificial intelligence division, that's bleeding business. I think that's the real problem right now with that organization. But I think the launch business is going to be fine, and then the communications part is going to be fine. Do you want to hear something crazy? Like, just because we're talking? So a couple of years ago, when I was looking at all this stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, this is next level crazy. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, look at the globe right now with internet connectivity. In places that never had high-speed internet, Elon just started dropping Starlink, and now they have high-speed internet. So they basically went from not having any internet to overnight having high speed because of their phones and what have you, because there's no connectivity, because they never had fiber there. Guess what's gonna end up happening? If I am a mobile operator and I rely on, the dishes here locally, instead of working with that, and I can just go with low-lying satellites, you disintermediate like companies like AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and then you can actually have your own network for your global phone system. And I'm like, that could be a really big. So what ended up happening when I started looking at that data is Apple bought a portion of Globalstar, and Globalstar just got acquired by Amazon. I just remember I was the first one to tell you this. It's really interesting when you're starting to look at stuff. Elvis knows I have to go. There are two places that people fire stuff into space. I work with billionaires. I can go to Cape Canaveral, but I never get invited there because the launch costs are so expensive. So I go to some place called White Sands, New Mexico. It costs a lot of cruises. It is brutal flying there. They're like, oh, just come out here. I'm like, I don't have a private jet. So I take Southwest to El Paso or Armadillo, and then I just drive all the way up, and it's brutal going there. But the reason I mention this is I do think there's gonna be like a lot of things that people don't see as far as how they make money moving forward. Off the record, like we did buy SpaceX for our conservative and moderate investors. We made money for all of them. Our aggressive investors, not so much. Like you see the stock price right now. It's crazy, but I still like SpaceX a lot. I really my biggest concern is all those people who now are worth like 10 to 100 million are just tired of working all the time. They work like 7 days a week. Like you can't do that for like 10, 15, like think about Apple teams when the iPhone came out, a lot of those people, like those senior engineers had like cancer and died. Like most people don't know this. Like it's crazy. In order to do something amazing, you're not optimizing for work-life balance. I want to be very careful because I don't want to sound like that guy. You want other people to do that so we have work-life balance, right? It's just like, I tell people, like when I look at the companies that I work with, the ones that work the hardest have like, they're working like 7 days a week. And that's what SpaceX and Rocket Labs, right? It's interesting. I really think if you were to ask me, Will, do you still like SpaceX? I own it. Yeah, I like it. I own Rocket Labs also. I can go like, you can talk AST, you can talk about all these other ones. I think it's gonna be viable, just so you're aware. I think I'm at time, but I just wanna say thanks again. Anything else before you let me go? Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for the questions. I get really excited about this stuff because I go to these companies, so.
Well, would you be able to stick around and be a little bit,
Yeah, I need to talk to you about a couple things.
okay.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
攞啲夾翻去，嗰個攞入嚟嘅。
係咯，有啲係外邊攞入嚟嘅。對翻。
So you have next seminar to go? You have the next one?
Yeah, so yesterday I was in Compton and Long Beach, and then I drove up afterwards. So just your phone's right here. I'm always on the road. Next week